Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are. Welcome back to the Bear Barn. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be a good video. It's going to be fun. I cannot wait to make this video for you guys because I've always said I make the videos that I like to watch. And I love videos like what I'm about to make for you guys. I love watching that style of video. And I'll be 100% honest, I'm really good when I just turn on the camera and I start talking. It's one of those reasons that I think that I love my podcast so much, because me off the cuff and me just kind of shooting from the hip is one of the best versions of me in front of a camera, because honestly, that's how I am in real life. When I'm not in front of the camera, I'm the same exact way. And honestly, I let my mouth run sometimes, and my mouth has got me in a lot more trouble than I could ever imagine. But it has also got me in some really cool situations as well. So you got to be careful with it. There's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to listen twice as much as you talk. I've not always followed that rule, but like my dad always said, do what I say, not what I do, because what I say and what he always said was probably a lot more smarter than what we actually do in a lot of instances. But that's neither here nor there. You're here, I'm here. Let's get into this video. So the first part of this video is going to be a little bit of a life update. It's a big life update. There's a few things that I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm really excited to share them. And then the second part of this video is going to be a rod, reel, and line arsenal for 2025, because I love gear. I know a lot of you guys love gear. I love to watch videos where people break down their gear, how their boats are rigged, how their kayaks are rigged, because I always learn something from those videos, and I always am able to apply something from something that I learned from those videos, and hopefully I extend some of that to you guys, as well as it's just cool to talk about gear. It's cool to see other people's gear. It's cool to see how people do things. And it's not out of like a covetous way where I'm like, hey, I want that, and I wish I had that. It's more out of just like, wow, that's really cool. I love how that person did that. Let me go try it in what I do and see what I can do. But life update first. So today is a strange day for Alex Rudd in the Alex Rudd fishing world. And the reason for that is it is a high of 65. It's a low of like something in the 40s, a little bit of wind, bluebird skies, birds are singing. It's a perfect, beautiful spring day, the kind of day that I would go spend 12 hours out on the water. But instead, I'm sitting here at the house, and I'm going to be sitting here at the house for the next couple of weeks. And the reason for that is self-imposed. But it's a break, and it's a break nonetheless. And I think it's a needed break because of what happened in the life update that I'm going to give you guys. But also, I think breaks are good. I think it's good for us to just kind of have to sit down sometime, to regroup, to recoup, to kind of restring the rods, recenter on what we're thinking, to kind of figure out what's going on in our world, and then be able to attack the future with a vengeance. And that's exactly what this whole life event has done for me. And it has been awesome, because Bethany did most of the work, but Bethany and I had a baby. And I am I am more excited about it than I think that you guys could even imagine. You can probably tell by the smile on my face. It has been an absolutely incredible journey. The past 9 months with Bethany, seeing her grow the way that she did, the baby grow inside of her, and then to see her have that baby and bring it into the world is just, it's incredible. And all of those cliche things that everybody says about you don't know what love is, or you don't know the kind of love and the capacity to love something until you see your baby, is 100% true. It is absolutely incredible. I love my wife in a incredibly special way. And it's a completely different way than I love my child. But I love my child in an incredibly special way that's completely different than the way that I love my wife. But that thing of those both being together and knowing that we made that thing is incredible within itself. And it's awesome to see the Alex Rudd fishing family grow and just to do that. And so, yeah, we had a baby. Now, I'll be 100% honest, 100% transparent with you guys, as I always am. No rah-rah bullshit around here. This will probably be one of the last times that you hear about it, because me and Bethany have reserved the right to keep that part of our life private. We want to keep our child private, the gender, the name, all of those things. We want to keep it private. That's kind of a private part of our life that we want to keep private in a world where I have a job on the internet. Now, that's not the same for everybody. You know, most people don't have a job on the internet where people know their name, know their face, where I go out in public and I meet people that I don't know that watch my YouTube channel. Now, that being said, I don't want you to think that I think you guys are a bunch of creepers or a bunch of weirdos or anything like that. I don't believe that at all. I believe 99.9% of my subscribers are awesome individuals who really care about fishing and care about what I do. And obviously you're here and you keep watching these videos and listening to what I say. But what I am saying is that in a world where I'm a semi-public figure, we've reserved the right to keep that part of our life private, and that's just the way that it's going to be. Any pictures or things that get posted of the child will be very subtle, won't show the face, won't say the name, won't say anything like that, because again, we have reserved the right to keep that part of our life private, and that is what we're going to do. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that is a part of my life now. It's a major part of my life now. It is a huge part of my life now. It is going to be something that affects the rest of my life forever, but it doesn't affect what I do for a job. It doesn't affect Alex Red Fishing, because this is my job, and now I have to provide for my little one, my child, in a way that I have never had to provide for anybody outside of my wife in my whole entire life. And so my family is expanded. I just wanted to let you guys know that, because I know a lot of you guys have kids. A lot of you guys are in the process of having children. And so now you know, when you watch an Alex Red Fishing video, when you support an Alex Red Fishing video, when you buy through an affiliate link, when you purchase a product that I have promoted, you're not just supporting me. You're not just supporting Alex Red Fishing. You're now supporting my family. You always have, but you're supporting it in a completely different way now. And so I thought I would share that with you guys and just thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do this for a job, do this for a living, and for supporting me in that way so that I can do that. And so you guys are awesome. So I wanted to share that with you. The second life update is kind of a life/business/YouTube update that I wanted to just kind of let you guys in on. And that is the fact that Bass Fishing Tips is kind of back online. I didn't really promote it when I brought it back, but I did promote it when I initially started that YouTube channel. And I started that YouTube channel about a year ago. Actually, it's been a year ago, because I got like the little update on YouTube or whatever that tells me that my channel was a year old. And I started it as a daily tips channel. My buddy Ty Berger does it. Matt Steffen does it. There's a couple other channels that do like those daily short, really punchy fishing tips that you can take out and you can use on the water. And I'll be totally honest, it was miserable to me. I hated that format. I hated that I had to sit down and to pre-film a bunch of videos and just regurgitate a bunch of information that sometimes I felt like wasn't the absolute best that it can be. And I hated doing that, because that's not the kind of content that I want to make or the channel that I want to run. And so I stopped the channel for about 3 to 4 months, and I've brought it back. And now that I've brought it back, it's going to be once a week, in depth, like 20 to 25 minute videos, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer. Honestly, there's no rules, with these videos. It is whatever the video needs it to be. Bass fishing tips on different techniques, lures, rod and reel setups, all of these different things. I just take a bait, I break it down in depth, and I give you guys some tips, some tricks, some things that I probably don't even share on Alex Red Fishing over on Bass Fishing Tips to help you guys to go out and to catch more fish. And I upload those videos every Sunday evening for you guys to enjoy, and that's how Bass Fishing Tips is going to run from now on. I may add a video in, maybe one more a week, get it up to 2 a week, but at absolute minimum, it's 1 video a week, bass fishing tip, in-depth breakdown of something. And if you guys haven't checked out that channel yet, please go do it. I'll leave it down in the description. In the pinned comment is something that I am really enjoying doing, because it is one of those things, it's no pressure. It's things that I've never shared, and it's just things that I'm talking about what I learn every single week while I'm out on the water fishing 40 hours a week, and then giving it to you guys in a digestible way, using my teaching skills from back when I was an educator to give you guys information in an easily digestible way to go out and to go catch fish. That's what the channel is dedicated to. It's also dedicated to giving out some sneaky tips that I probably shouldn't be giving out on the internet, but yet here we are. And so, yeah, there's that. The third update is going to be, I'm actually going to be looking for another kayak here very, very soon. Now, I know what you're saying, Alex, you just got your Hobie, and I did just get my Hobie. But for a lot of you guys that know, you keep up with anything that's going on the internet, Hobie is doing whatever the hell Hobie's doing. I'm not really sure. They dropped me off of their pro staff. They gave me the boat that I have now. And so this is how this works a little bit of a understanding of how this works. I was on the Hobie pro staff. That means Hobie gives me a boat, dugout, bait, and tackle, rigged that boat, and then at the end of the year, I was supposed to give that boat back. Ended up having to warranty the boat that they gave me, and so they gave me a boat in place of the boat that I had, and then asked for the boat that I warrantied back, not realizing that I had even warrantied the boat. And so the boat that they have given me for this year is a replacement boat for the boat that I had to warranty that they do not want back. And it's one of those things that the whole situation from top to bottom kind of left a bad taste in my mouth from Hobie. Dugout Bait and Tackle, Jamie at Dugout Bait and Tackle, Steve Owens and Steve O that helps run Dugout Bait and Tackle's kind of pro team and my relationship with them. I have nothing bad to say about them. I'm continuing my relationship with them. I love those guys. They have treated me well. They continue to treat me well. They're awesome partners and great people to work with them. They make some really cool products like their steering triangle, their dashboard mount. It's all the stuff that they're doing over there. So that's completely unaffected. But Hobie left a bad taste in my mouth. And I'll be 100% honest, I'm going to miss my 360 drive. I really am. I'm going to miss that technology. But I think it's time to move on. It's time to start looking for something else. And go ahead. Tell me, you were right or whatever, throw it back in my face, because I know some of you guys, when I uploaded that video, just had a real bad taste about Hobie already. And it's one of those things, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I have made that decision, and it's a decision that I stick with, and we will move on and we will see where we end up. But we're going to end up somewhere else than in a Hobie. And my biggest thing is what I want kayak fishing to be for me is something that doesn't need a Hobie. The Hobie is a really, really cool boat, especially if you're going to go fish these high-level tournaments on these big lakes and you need something that is essentially a plastic bass boat. That's what a Hobie ends up being. But for me and how I like to fish in a kayak, and you guys know this by watching the channel, most of it is skinny water, shallow water, creek fishing, river fishing, literally going where boats can't go. Taking the kayak to those places and actually doing what a lot of kayak fishermen say, which is, I like to take my kayak places that boats can't go. That's what I actually like to do in a kayak. And so that's the sort of kayak that I'm going to lean into, that I'm going to look for. And it doesn't mean that later I won't have some big tricked out rig. Absolutely will, especially with Minn Kota coming out with their new kayak motor like they did. I'm going to have one of those on a kayak eventually. And I'm going to probably have a motor on a kayak that I have in the future. But it's going to be one of those things that I kind of dial back. I go back to the roots of what I want kayak fishing to be, and then I build it back up. But I build it in a way that every move that I make in that little kayak fishing world is something that at the core of what it is still a kayak, and still simple and still fun, and still the reason that I got into kayak fishing, and not this other thing that like the plastic bass boat world and the Hobie thing wants it to be. If that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Anyway, life update over. That was fun. Lot to say. Baby had. New channel doing well. New kayak loading coming soon. Now let's get into a rod and reel arsenal, and let's talk about all my rods and reels that I've got rigged up, ready to rock for 2025, and see what all that looks like. So drink. Double plastic cups. One cup acts like an insulator for the other cup. Super smooth move. Also, notice the microphone, it's white. Normally they're black. I use these little DJI mics. They're really cool. DJI mics, they're really, really cool. But the ones I got were black, and one of them ended up not working. It ended up just like breaking. I don't know what happened to it. And the black replacement mic was like 60. The white replacement mic was like 40. And I was like, well, I'm going to buy the white one because what's it matter? And so I'm calling him Albert Einstein because he's got a little fluffy head on the top. All right, let's open up the box. Let's get into this video. And let's start talking rod, reel, and line. So we'll start with a couple rods that I got laying out right here that I've actually got rigged up, ready to go for when I do get back out on the water sometime in the next couple of weeks here. If I don't sneak away for a little afternoon session, which I probably will sneak away for a little afternoon session. I already talked to Bethany about it, and Bethany knows what's the best part about my wife. Small rabbit hole, not a big one. I told her the other day, I was like, man, I'm going to have to get out on the water here soon. And she was like, go ahead, honey. It'll be fine. That's the kind of woman I married. She's awesome. All right, so the first rod and reel that I've got here is one that I really, really like. And I'll be honest, this is a rod that I don't use a ton of rods in the Pro Series of rods, but the ones that I do use, I really, really like. And the running joke is that I only use the Pro Series rods or Pro Series gear from Abu Garcia of the pros that I actually like. So Hunter, I actually like you, buddy. And it's a joke. It's a running joke. But I tell all the pros that, like, whenever we're talking, I'm like, hey, I actually kind of like you, so that's why I use your rod and promote it. But the first rod that I got here, this is the 7.6 medium heavy. This is Hunter Shyrock's flipping stick. And this thing, I absolutely love it. For me, when I'm looking for a flipping stick, what I look for in a flipping stick, a jig rod, a general purpose flipping rod, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this rod. And so this is what I've got rigged up for. One, I think I got a couple kind of general purpose flipping stick-esque rods in here, but this is kind of my go-to just because it handles really, really well. Anything in that like 3/8 to 3/4 ounce jig, 3/8 to 3/4 ounce flipping setups, that like 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, that general flipping rod and reel that I'm looking for. This rod does a really, really good job of it. And this is actually a carryover from last year. I used this rod all of last year and a little bit from the year before, I think, as well, and just kept it because I wasn't getting rid of it because I liked it that much. And I've got that paired up with a Revo STX. You will see a lot of these in this video. There's about 3 reels that I use the most, the STX, the SX, and then the Xenon MGX. Those are like my 3 go-to reels from Abu Garcia. And as you guys can see, I mean, this thing is a little beat up, got some paint taken off of it. This reel is actually a couple years old. And again, it's because I really like this equipment. I can actually get anything that I want from Abu Garcia as far as gear goes. I mean, replace everything that I use every year, but it's quality equipment that lasts more than just a season, and so why replace it? Why fix it if it's not broke? And so this STX is running on a couple years old. I think this is one of the originals that I got when they come out with the new body style, and they just keep on kicking. And so that is my flipping setup. One of my flipping setups. I got probably multiple in here. The next one is my bladed jig rod and reel. And if you watch the Bass Fishing Tips video that I put out just a little while ago where I talked about bladed jigs, I talked about this rod, and I also talked about in that video how my bladed jig setup is constantly evolving, and it really is. I'm always experimenting with bladed jig rods because I've not found the perfect one yet. I don't know if the perfect one exists, but I always like to play with it because like flipping, like cranking, like topwater fishing, those are like the things that I really enjoy doing. And so I'm always trying to dial in and make it perfect because those are the things that I do the most. And so this is an ever evolving setup. But as of right now, I'm using the Savage Gear Squad rod. This is a medium heavy, moderate fast action rod. And this thing is really, really cool. It's a 7.4. And I love it because it is a moderate fast, but it shuts off into a really good backbone, which I think is important for those bladed jigs. I've explained that a bunch on this channel. I've explained it over on Bass Fishing Tips why I think that, so go watch that if you want to check it out. But really, really like the moderate action rod. Also just to love the look of this rod. The camo accents, the carbon fiber, it just looks really, really good. And I just really, really like it. And so this is the rod we're going to run this year. We'll see if it sticks. I think that it will for a little while. I love just the feel of this rod, especially when I'm fishing in a kayak, lower to the water, skipping baits, really kind of being a little bit more finesse with my presentations and really kind of sticking some baits in places they probably shouldn't go. This rod feels really, really good with that, and so I really, really like it. And then again, got that paired up, Revo STX, 17 pound straight fluorocarbon. That is an absolute mainstay. 6/8 gear ratio reel and 17 pound fluorocarbon. That always, almost never, I have never changed that on my bladed jig setup for a while, and that's probably what I'll continue to run with. That's just like the mainstay on how I like to fish that. And then fishing this little bladed jig, so something I'm going to play around with a little bit. Not replacing the slobber knocker by any means, but this is that new little Evo chatterbait, the Evo Mini. It's a 1/2 ounce, but it's a little bitty with the little 3/0 hook, got the smaller blade, and then I got it paired up with that little bait right there. It is the Savage Gear Dragon Tail, which I didn't even know that we made these, but absolutely sexy little bait. And as you guys can see, it's actually a Last Tech little bait, got that little bitty tail in the back. I think that thing's going to be a wicked little bladed jig trailer, so we're going to play around with that just a little bit. Again, not going to replace the slobber knocker, but just something to experiment with because I like experimenting with gear. Like I said, I'm always looking, always experimenting, always messing around with them. Now the next rod, in no particular order, we're just pulling these bad boys out of here, is going to be this rod right here. This is the 7.2 medium light fast action Fenwick walleye rod. And the reason that I have this rod is because your boy went ahead and committed to a jig minnow shaking rod. I'm not good at it. I suck at it. I'm actually terrible at it. But I was talking to a few people that work for Pure Fishing and kind of talking to a few pros, and they said that the 7.2 walleye rod was their favorite rod for shaking a minnow on. And so I got myself one, and I've shook up a couple striper on it, and that's about it. And that's really all I know about that. Like, I really don't have a ton of detail on this rod and reel other than I've used it, I've caught a couple fish on it, but it's not something that I am like super duper dedicated to, or something that I'm going to use like a whole ton, because again, I'm just not a minnow shaker. But I do got the forward facing sonar. I got Mega Live 2 coming for the boat very, very soon. We've got it on the kayak. And so it's something I'm going to learn. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to experiment, but by no means am I going to dedicate a ton of time to it. And then just got a Xenon. This is a Xenon X. It's a 200 size reel, 10-pound braid to a 6-pound leader, and that's my minnow shaking rod. So again, not a ton to talk about there because I'm just not a minnow shaker. There's other people that I'm sure like could go for hours on shaking a minnow. I'm just not that guy. Now here's an interesting one. This is an interesting bait. That right there is the Berkeley Juke. And the Juke used to have a freshwater series, and they got rid of it, and now they only have it in salt water. And what this is it's a suspending crank slash jerk bait. And this is something that I've not talked about, but something that I have used and I've caught a bunch of fish on. And it's an oversized crankbait, essentially, an oversized suspending crankbait at that. And so just a really interesting presentation, something a little bit different. And if you watch that bass event where Brandon Polinick won, he was using a bait very, very similar to this by Mega Bass. And once he let that cat out of the bag, I was like, well, I guess it's time for me to let the cat out of the bag as well and pull the Juke out and start showing it on videos some more. And this thing's a fish catcher and can call out some big fish. But I've got the Juke on. This is a 7.6 moderate fast action medium heavy Veritas. It's the new Veritas rods from Abu Garcia, and I love them because we got black handles now. Updated the rod, same great actions with a few new actions added in, same great $99 price point, but with a whole new aesthetic look with the black and white. And a lot of what you're gonna see in this video are these Veritas rods, because my philosophy on fishing equipment is I try to shop how I shopped before I did YouTube for a living, which was invest in quality reels, purchase quality but affordable rods, and just kind of keep in somewhat of a price point budget that most people can attain. And that's me. That's how I like to shop. And so I really, really like these rods. These are actually really, really damn good rods for the money when it comes to the price point that they're at. But they got, again, 7.6 medium heavy, moderate fast, just something to be able to toss that big bait around but have that moderate action for those treble hooks. And then I got that paired up with a Xenon X. This is 6/8 gear ratio with some 15-pound test. And so again, interesting bait. I'm going to share more about it as time goes on. We could do a whole video dedicated to just this bait, which we've not got time for right now, but this is definitely a rod and reel dedicated to kind of these bigger treble hooked baits, bigger crankbaits and stuff like this. I think it's a great big topwater rod as well, but that's one of those setups. All right, let's keep going here. The next one is actually my jerk bait setup. Also, comment down below if you like these. Just comment down below if you like those little bait wraps. Just comment and let me know. The next one is my jerk bait setup. So this is a 610 fast medium Veritas rod. Again, that Veritas series, the $99, got the new aesthetic. It's the new 3.0 version. These things are absolutely incredible for the price point. Really, really love these rods. Again, I love a 610 medium fast for my jerkbait rod. I like a little bit faster action rod for my jerkbait. Just when I'm cracking that jerkbait, when that rod resets really, really fast, it allows me to really crack that jerkbait hard, but then also that reset back to center allows me to feel bites on the stop and on the pause. And so when I'm able to pause that bait, feel that bite because of that faster action, helps me to catch a few more fish, so I really, really like it. But 610, a little bit shorter, not only rod, but butt on this thing as well. Allows me to tuck it right into my arm like that, crack that thing really hard and fish the jerkbait how the jerkbait needs to be fished. And then there's one of those other reels that I was kind of telling you guys about. This is the Xenon MGX. Really, really good reel. Probably one of my favorite high-end reels from Abu Garcia. And this is one of those reels, it's definitely an investment. But for me, if I was going to invest in one of the higher-end reels, this would absolutely be the one that I invest into. These things are absolutely bulletproof, and I really, really like them, not only for just general purpose stuff, but lighter line as well. It's a little bit smaller spool, a little bit smaller just reel overall. And because of that, it throws 10-pound test really, really good, which is what I fish on my jerkbait, I fish on my crankbait, and so I really, really like these reels. Also, when you've been fishing all day, something like a jerkbait where you're jerking that jerkbait and using a lot of wrist action in that jerkbait, a lighter reel really does make a huge difference. It's one of those things that I tell people, I never realized how much physicality that there actually was in fishing until I started fishing full time. And when you fish 4 or 5 days a week and you're doing something like fishing a jerkbait or punching a big, punching weight or cranking a crankbait for days and days, hours and hours on end, lightening up some of your gear can be a difference between being like sore all over and exhausted and or being able to fish and be a little bit more efficient. So something I've noticed. I don't know if it's for everybody, but it's definitely something that I've noticed. So that is my jerkbait setup. Now listen, it's going to be a lot of rods and reels because I'm very blessed to work with Abu Garcia and Fenwick and the Pure Fishing folks, and I get a lot of rods and reels, and I've got a lot of rods and reels, and so we're going to keep on going here. May have to speed up just a little bit. All right, the next one is going to be my Money Badger setup. This is the old Badge Daddy, the Badger setup, what I like to throw my Badger on. Now, I've thrown the Badger on a bunch of different things over the time that I've been throwing the Badger, but really settled into this setup this year because it does a really good job of handling the bait well, throwing the bait well, and I really, really enjoy throwing a Money Badger on this rod for everything that it does properly. It loads well, it casts well. I'm able to make accurate casts while also being able to cast into the wind, fight fish very, very well because of this rod, and that is a Fenwick World Class. It's the 7-1 medium moderate fast action. Now you don't have to have a World Class. That's what's really cool about Fenwick rods. I've explained this before, but I'll explain it again. It's a family of actions. So what that means is you can go and buy an Eagle, which is 99 bucks, and or you can buy a World Class, which is 400 bucks. But as long as you get the 7-1 medium fast, or moderate fast, you're gonna get the same exact action out of the $89 rod as you do the $400 rod. It's just different componentry and a little bit different blank, but the same exact action. Fenwick worked their ass off to make sure that that was right, and they did a really, really good job of it. And so don't be discouraged if you say, well, Alex, I can't afford a World Class. You don't have to have a World Class. You can go buy the more affordable rod and have the same exact action. And so 7-1 medium, moderate, fast, really, really love this rod. And then I've got this paired up with, again, Xenon MGX and some 10-pound fluorocarbon, straight fluorocarbon, 6-8 gear ratio on this one. 8 gear ratio on the jerkbait because we want to be able to pick up line, but 6-8 gear ratio with the crankbait. That is my crankbait speed on every single crankbait that I fish, no matter what. It's what works for me. Obviously it works. I've caught thousands of fish on a Money Badger up to this point, and cranking a crankbait is like the thing that I'm kind of known for, and so I know what I like, and I really like a 6-8 gear ratio, and I love this reel, love this setup. Extremely light, extremely quality, and this is a very expensive setup. It's almost a $900 setup, but the thing is you got to think, how many hours do I spend with a crankbait in my hand? That's why I have this particular setup, and why I use it is because I do spend so many hours with a crankbait in my hand. And that's what I've always tell people, like, do you really like doing a particular technique? Is there a particular technique that you do more than others? That's where you need to invest your money, because that's where you're going to get the most use out of something, and where that little bit more quality gear is going to be more important and is going to need to be had, because it's going to last longer than the more affordable stuff will. Not that the more affordable stuff doesn't last, because I've got some reels in here that have been around. I got some Generation 2 Revos sitting over here that I could throw on these rods and keep on fishing, but just saying, quality things last a little bit longer. Drink time. So this one, I'm excited about this one. This is one of my favorite little rod and reel setups that I've got, and it is small. Small meaning it's light, it's dainty, it's very finesse, but gosh, it's a fun rod to throw, because this is one of my favorite things to do, and that is little bitty finesse crankbaits. I'm talking the little bitty guys, like the number 5 size flicker shads, 5 size shad wraps, little bitty crankbaits that you got to throw on a spinning rod. Otherwise, you're just going to bird nest. I guess you could throw it on BFS, but I've just not played with that any at all. It's more efficient for me to throw it on a spinning rod. But this is a world class, and again, you don't have to have the world class. That's what's really cool about Fenwick. This is the 610 medium light extra fast. And this is actually a drop shot rod, but I have found it to be one of the best little finesse cranking rods that I have found. Now, I went with the extra fast because what I've noticed about these little bitty crankbaits and these rods is these rods load up really well, and they load up really far down the blank, but they shut off into a good hard backbone. And what I've noticed is with the little bitty hooks that you want to drive them home and you want to get that moderate action that really allows them to dig in, but there's a point at which you got to kind of stick them in there and shove them in there because they are so small. And so I want to make sure that I'm loading up well with that crankbait, but then when it comes time to really stick those fish, that I get them stuck good, because I am fishing with tiny little treble hooks. And so you got to be careful when you're fishing with those tiny little treble hooks to make sure that you actually get them into the fish. And so that's the reason that I picked this rod. And then I got that paired up with a Revo SX. It's a 200 size, 10-pound braid to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. And that is my little bitty finesse crankbait fishing setup. You can also use this thing for throwing other little small lures. I use this thing to throw my little cicada bug lures. I've used it to throw a drop shot. I've used it to toss like little trout spinners and stuff like that. Just really cool little versatile rod. But my favorite application, because I love crankbait fishing, is throwing those little bitty finesse crankbaits. All right, the next one is going to be one that's going to be a bitch to get out of here. We'll just pull this whole thing out of here because this is the old chandelier rod. Now, I use this rod for more than just a chandelier, but I've got a chandelier on it right now because we threw the chandelier quite a bit this winter just because of how cold it was. This is a rod that I actually didn't order for myself, but it was sent to me to test out and see if I liked it. And it's kind of funny that I'm throwing a chandelier on a 7.6 heavy fast action Xenon casting rod. It's a very premium rod to toss a chandelier on, but it does a really good job at it. And these Xenon rods, what I will say about them, as premium as they are, I had a 7-foot medium fast action Xenon spinning rod that I took freaking everywhere. It was like my general purpose rod for absolutely everything. And you know, I loved it. I ended up losing it in the bottom of the lake, which sucks. But these rods are really good. Very light, really good, really cool actions on them, and I really like them. So 7.6 heavy on this one, just a really cool rod. I got that paired up with a Revo Beast, which I'm ready for the new ones to come out. We got new generations of Beasts coming out. They've been kind of teasing them here and there, but really love this reel. Just big, beefy, big handles on this reel. It does a really good job of throwing heavier baits like an Alabama rig, like a swim bait and different things like that. But just my setup, this is ever changing. This rod has been used for a Carolina rig. It's been used for flipping. It's been used for general purpose. It's been used for the rig, obviously. It's been used for tossing, smaller swim baits. And so just a rod that I've got that I like, that was sent to me. I keep it in the boat. I toss different things on it. I let it be kind of, that one rod that you keep in the it's got that golf club that you keep in the bag just because sometimes you need it. That's that rod right there. All right, this one actually doesn't have a reel on it right now. This is a 610 medium heavy Veritas rod. This is actually my spinnerbait rod, and I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know why it doesn't have a reel on it. Huh. Interesting. I must have switched something out. Put something somewhere. I don't know. We'll figure it out later. I need to find the reel for this. So spinnerbait rod, 610, medium heavy. I like a little bit shorter spinnerbait rod. I really started liking it last year when I was throwing Adrian a Venus spinnerbait rod, and so I just kind of stuck with that action. All right, the next one that I've got here, I don't know. We'll figure that one out. This is another general purpose rod. This is a 7.4 medium heavy fast action, just great general purpose rod. That is exactly what I kind of keep this in my boat for. This is great at throwing literally anything and everything. And so let's say that I snap my jig rod in half. This could be a great jig rod. I snap my spinnerbait rod in half. It's a great spinnerbait rod. Let's say I snap a Carolina rig rod in half. It's a great Carolina rig rod. This is a great rod to do everything. Buzz baits, spinner baits, anything that you want to do with this, you can about damn near do with it. And so I keep it in the boat. I keep it rigged, keep a STX on it because, again, it's one of my favorite reels, just an 8 gear ratio STX with some 15-pound fluorocarbon on it. You can do anything with this rod right here. And to me, this is like, most people say the 7-foot medium heavy is the greatest general purpose rod ever made. To me, the 7.4 medium heavy is the greatest general purpose rod ever made because it allows me to throw a little bit bigger baits, a little bit smaller baits, a little bit of everything, and get away with it and do a really good job at it. And so just a great general purpose rod. Again, Veritas 2.0 STX reel, 15-pound fluorocarbon on that one. All right, let's keep going. This is what I have been waiting for, and it is almost time. Actually, I could probably go get some bites on it tomorrow if I wanted to. But one of my favorite things to do, one of my favorite ways to catch fish, and that is top water. Now, this rod is wicked, and I do have to say, of the Pro Series rods, this is probably my absolute favorite. And Mr. Justin Lucas, I always tell him when I see him, thank you for designing this rod because you absolutely killed it. This is the 7.4 medium heavy, moderate fast action Justin Lucas topwater rod. For throwing choppos, for throwing jaywalkers, for throwing essentially any topwater, this is the absolute best topwater rod that I have ever owned, ever. Like, it is just that freaking good. It loads up perfectly. It shuts off into a perfect backbone. You're able to cast the bigger lures like the full-size jaywalkers and the full-size choppos on this thing. It handles fish really, really well, all the way from 2-pound largemouth up to 30-pound striper I've caught on this thing, and I absolutely love this rod. Absolutely incredible rod. They knocked it out of the park with this action, with this design. Everything about this rod is really, really awesome. So absolutely love it. Actually ended up breaking my other one, shut it in a freaking truck door like an idiot, and so ended up having to order another one. So this is actually a brand new one. This is not a carryover from last year. This is a brand new rod that I actually ended up having to order and get. And then I've got that paired up with a Revo Rocket. Now, Revo Rocket is absolutely incredible. I have 2 of these in my arsenal, one for my buzzbaits, one for my other topwaters, and I love it because you got all the speed that you need. And that's one thing about topwater. If you get a blow up, reel it back up, fire it back in there, and being able to get that bait to you and back out really, really quick, I absolutely love. And then number 2, even though you do have that speed, you don't lose the torque, because that's the biggest thing. It's like a Lamborghini. A lot of speed, a lot of high end, a lot of torque as well, but not as much torque as, say, like a diesel truck. And so being able to redesign the gearbox in this reel, which they did with the Rocket, making it where you've got speed and torque, is really, really important, and it makes for just an awesome topwater rod and one of my favorite rods to use and to catch fish on. So that is my topwater setup, and then I use 40-pound straight braid on all my topwaters. I used to tie a leader, just stopped doing that and didn't really notice a difference. And so I just go straight braid on my topwaters, and I don't know, I catch a bunch of fish. Moderate action with that straight braid doesn't really make, like, it makes it where you don't have to worry about ripping those treble hooks out of that fish's face. I think that that's the important part. If you're gonna fish braid, make sure you're using a moderate action rod, because you will rip treble hooks out of their face. Here's another one of my favorite rods, and something that we spent a lot of time with it in our hands this past fall, and that is this is my baby. I'm ready for this type of fishing to come back. Mr. Mikey Balls, he loves this type of fishing as well, and spent a lot of time in a part of Florida where he could do it a lot. And here in Tennessee and Alabama, and kind of where I fish, we get like a narrow window where it works really, really well, but I love it when it does happen. This is 710 heavy fast world-class rod. This is my punching stick. This is the meat stick. This is the damn, just lay the wood to them, tell them who's boss, rip them out of the thick stuff. God, I love punching so much I can't even stand it. So this is my punching rod. I've got it paired up with a Revo SX Rocket. So there's a Rocket version of the SX. This is 9 gear ratio, same upgraded gearbox as your normal Rocket, just at a little bit lower price point, but absolutely love these Revo Rocket SX reels. They're affordable, high gear ratio while still having the torque, and I use a lot of these reels on stuff like punching and flipping and some of my general purpose rods just because really good price point while still having those kind of features that you want out of the Rocket. And so really, really like this thing. And then some straight 65-pound braid on this bad boy, big old 1 ounce weight, 3/0 flipping hook, you know, just got that thing snell knotted on there. Again, this rod has one job and one job only, and that is to wrench them out of the really, really heavy stuff. And I just love punching that much that I've got an entire rod, reel, and line dedicated to it that only gets a narrow window of use, but when it does get used, I absolutely love it. But I love this rod too, really long, you know, butt on this thing. It allows me to like tuck that thing up, and I actually flip with my left hand. So I don't switch hands. And so what this allows me to do is just kind of tuck it up, and I just like pendulum that way. And so I'm not really using my arm or my wrist a ton during the day or switching hands when I'm punching. I can really efficiently just reel punch, and just keep that kind of movement going and pendulum that weight and really get used to using that weight and that rod and that reel. And it allows for a ton of efficiency out on the water. It allows me to punch a lot and present my bait in a bunch of different ways and get a bunch more bites doing that. All right, let's keep on keeping on here. All right, so this is one of my other flipping setups. This is a 7.6 heavy fast action Veritas 2.0, again, paired up with a Revo STX 8 gear ratio and some 20-pound fluorocarbon. Essentially, this is a rod that I have in here as a backup to that Hunter Shyrock rod, as well as an addition to the Hunter Shyrock rod, so that if I want to have 2 different colors jigs tied on, if I want to have a Texas rig on one and a jig on the other, if I want to have 2 different kinds of color Texas rigs tied on, just so that when I'm flipping, I'm pitching, I've got a backup to the backup, so that if I blow a reel up or I'm wanting to switch up colors really, really fast, I can throw both of these on the deck of the boat or into the kayak, and I've got multiple rods that do the same job and do it really, really well, and absolutely love this thing. You can also use it for Carolina rig. You can use it for throwing big swim baits. I think everybody needs a big heavy rod in their arsenal because a big heavy rod does a lot of things really, really good, especially if you like pitching, flipping, doing that kind of close combat fishing that I like to do and that's coming around. But yeah, I keep this in the boat just for that. But as you guys can see, more Veritases, love these things, $99 price point, more STXs. I told you there's going to be some kind of things that are very similar throughout these setups, and that STX is one that always gets used and talked about by me. All right. This is my other favorite rod next to my topwater rod, because this is my other topwater rod. This is my buzzbait setup, and I'll be 100% honest. I can't show you this. I can't show you that. Not yet. Just know it's coming. Know it's sneaky. A little bit, that's all you get. Know it's sneaky, know it's coming. All right, so this is my buzzbait setup. Now, this is a buzzbait setup that I stumbled upon, fell in love with, and I've been using ever since. This is another Pro Series rod. This is the 7.3 medium heavy fast action Bobby Lane swim jig rod. And this thing is wicked because even though it's labeled a fast action, it's got a really soft tip on it, and it actually loads up really, really well. And when I started fishing buzzbaits and really started falling in love with buzzbaits and going down the rabbit hole of buzzbaits like I did, the one thing that I kept kind of edging towards was a more moderate action rod for my buzzbaits, and really fell in love with a moderate action rod for my buzzbaits. And it's something that I throw exclusively now with my buzzbaits, and this is my buzzbait setup. This is the exact buzzbait setup that I ended up breaking my PB spotted bass on and almost breaking the state record. I was only a half pound off. This is that setup. It's that Bobby Lane swim jig rod paired up with a Revo Rocket. Again, the Rocket reel. This thing is super fast, and so it makes fishing a buzzbait or any top water like moving style bait like that super duper efficient, which I really, really love about it. And it's a game changer. I hate using that term, but it really is a game changer. If you love fishing like a buzz toad or a buzzbait or something like that, get a Rocket, because it's so much more efficient. Just with a steady handle turn, you can keep that bait up, keep it completely moving. And again, if you get a blow up on it, reel up really quick, fire back in there with no problem. And I got that paired up with some 40-pound straight braid on there. And again, it's pretty much the same exact reel and line setup as my other topwater rod, except for I've just got this one dedicated to that buzzbait, because unlike my other topwater rod where mostly I'm fishing treble hooks, this is just a big single hook. And so I got to drive it home just a little bit more, but it still allows those fish to really get a hold of that bait, have that little bit more modern action, allows me to put fish in the boat. Now, the philosophy behind buzzbait rods is different for everybody, but that's kind of my philosophy behind it is this. I think when you got this bait moving really, really quick across the top of the water and they come up and they engulf it, that jerking it away from them too fast, I think you can pop their mouth open. And so I think a lot of times when they come up and I can kind of just load into them, and what you'll see a lot is I use this reel a lot for that too. That's where the speed comes in. Is I'll just be reeling it and I'll just kind of lean back into them and then reel up and reel that slack up and let the reel and the rod do the work of actually hooking the fish, versus like reeling it and when they blow up on it, pause it like you would a frog and then just jacking their ass. I let the rod and the reel do the work with the buzz bait, and I've had a lot of success doing that. And I feel like fish that sometimes would miss this bait otherwise, I've been able to catch because of how I actually functionally work a buzz bait and my mechanics around it because of the rod and the reel that I use. Got really technical on you there for just like half a second on something because I have a ton of passion for them. All right. God, we're just like hitting all the good shit right up front. It's not even right up front. What are we, like 40 minutes into this video? We're talking about a lot of stuff. The next one though is another one that we all love. And if you don't love this, you need to go get your ticker checked and there's something wrong with you. It's my frog setup. I love frog fishing. I've always said if I could fish a frog 365 days a year and get bites on it, that's all that I would do. Probably need to move to Florida because that would probably happen down there, but I absolutely love frog fishing. And so this is my frog fishing setup. Again, this is a great example of, I had this in a world class, ended up getting it in an HMG, which is the more affordable, fell in love with the HMG, and I've been using it ever since, and that is the Fenwick. It's the 7-1 heavy, extra fast HMG rod, and I've got that paired up again, Revo STX, with some 50-pound straight braid. Absolutely love this rod. I love the length on it. And the reason I love the length on it is because I love to skip a frog. I love to skip it up under boat docks, overhangs. You know, the frog for me isn't just a tool that I use in heavy cover and matted vegetation. I've said this before and I'll say it again. A frog for me is a bait that most of the time I'm fishing in open water. I've figured out a way to catch fish in open water on a frog and how to fish it efficiently and to get bites. And so I love a little bit shorter rod just so that I can be really accurate with my cast. Whether I'm in the boat or I'm in the kayak, I can make efficient cast, skip it up under stuff. But then too, that little bit shorter rod allows me to walk that frog really, really well, walk it back to the boat, walk it back to the kayak. But then the action, that heavy action allows me to drive them big hooks home. And then too, if I do want to go to the matted vegetation, I've still got all the power that I need to get those fish out of there. And so, yeah, that's my frog fishing setup. Absolutely killed them this year on Gunnersville on this thing. Ended up catching that really, really big one in practice for the knucklehead, but just really, really like that rod. Really good rod. Light too. That's the best. I love these Fenwicks. These Fenwicks, not to take anything away from the Abu Garcia rods, because obviously I got a lot of them. I use a lot of them, but Fenwick has been knocking it out of the park. After they did that redesign a couple of years ago, those rods just got phenomenally better than they already were, which is hard to like imagine that they could, but they did. All right, let's keep going. Ow, that hurt. So another bait. I can't show you yet. I can't show you this. I got all kinds of sneaky stuff in here, so I'm just going to have to cover that up. This is another cranking setup that I got that I keep in the boat. It's one that I fished a couple years ago, absolutely loved, and I keep it in there just because I do love this rod. And it's kind of crazy that an $89 rod could fish this well, but this is a 7-foot medium moderate fast action Abu Garcia Vendetta. $89 rod. This is like one of the best cranking bait rods I've ever used in my whole entire life. And I always tell people, like, if you've not got the money to spend on a crankbait rod or a dedicated cranking setup right up front, pick up one of these Vendettas. You will not be disappointed. Just the action, the way it loads, everything about it is absolutely phenomenal. And if you looked at me and said, Alex, I'm going to take your world class away from you that you normally fish a money badger on, and you've got to fish only one rod, this would be the rod that I fish, and I would absolutely love it and have no problems or qualms fishing it because it's just that good for 89 bucks. Again, Xenon MGX 10-pound fluorocarbon, really, really premium rod on a really, really affordable, or really, really premium reel on a really, really affordable rod. Awesome setup. Really great setup. This is like me in a nutshell right here as far as like what I think if you go out and buy fishing gear, how you should buy fishing gear. Spend the money on the reel because the reel is a durable. It's going to last you for a long time. The rod, as much as people want to say they're durables, they're actually consumables because at any one point you could break that thing. Shut it in a truck door, shut it in a rod box, drop it, lose it, step on it. There's so many ways that rods break that reels don't, and so the reel can last a long time where the rod is a little bit more consumable. So fish affordable rods, more premium reels, and you can build some really cool setups like this one right here that I would suggest to absolutely anybody. All right, let's keep going. This is just a general purpose spinning setup that I got. So I got a couple spinning rods in here. This is another 7-foot spinning rod that I've got in here. So I keep 3 spinning rods in here at all times. I don't keep them all rigged just because I don't use a spinning reel a ton because I like power fishing. But you do have to have a spinning reel every now and again to mainly just throw a wacky rig on. Because about the only thing I like to fish on a spinning reel is a wacky rig. And so I keep a 7-foot. This is actually not a Veritas 2.0. This is a Veritas LTD 3.0. Excuse me. It's not a 3.0 normal. It's a 3.0 LTD. This is a $129 rod. It's just like a step above the Veritas's. I love this rod. It's absolutely awesome. Same action as your normal Veritas, just a little bit more premium componentry, a little bit lighter blank, a little bit more sensitivity, and this thing is wicked. I've got it paired up with actually a very different reel. This is the Abu Garcia Ike series reel. So Iaconelli, listen, Mike Iaconelli is like one of the most genuine humans on planet Earth. I really like Mike Iaconelli. Like, all jokes aside, I say I only use the stuff of the pros that I actually like. I really do like Mike. He's like one of the nicest guys in the whole entire world. But yeah, this is his reel. I love this thing. I used it while I was in Mexico, and what I love about it the most is that handle. That big, like, oversized handle on that thing is absolutely wicked, and I love it. And so I really love this reel because of that. Also, it's got that sick-ass Galaxy paint job on it, which just makes it look super sexy, paired up with some of that new, that's actually the new forward braid from Berkeley. And I'm actually using it to throw wacky rigs on because I'm a redneck that likes fishing, and I just, you know, there's some things in my fishing world that I can go down a rabbit hole and tell you all of these specifics that I do and why it's this way and other things. And then you pick up one of my spinning reels and you're like, why are you throwing forward braid just to throw a wacky rig? Because that's what I do. That's me. That's how I roll. But that is just one of my general purpose kind of finesse fishing spinning setups that I've got. But really, really like that reel. 10-pound braid to a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader on almost everything that I do. And everything that I enjoy to do with a spinning reel. These rods are starting to stack up, ladies and gentlemen. Starting to stack up. That I got, these two are hooked together. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. Good. Is this one. This is my finesse jig fishing setup. So, love throwing and tossing around a finesse jig. Talked about this on Bass Fishing Tips. You guys know I really, really like these little bitty micro jigs. Had a ton of success on them the past couple years fishing them, and just really like to throw them. And so this is another Veritas 3.0. It's a 7.6 medium heavy fast action. Now this rod reminds me a ton of the Fanatista X 7.6 medium heavy that I used to fish my finesse jigs on. Ended up actually breaking that rod in my rod locker like a dummy. Closed it in my rod locker, snapped it in half, and so when it came time to get a new rod, I was like, well, let me try the 7.6 medium heavy Veritas, see if I like it, and the action is almost identical. It is a medium heavy fast, but it's got a lot more bend to it than I would say a traditional fast action does. I would say like take fast and like pare it down 25-30%, and I really, really like that because it gives me a ton of sensitivity when I'm dragging these jigs, but it allows me that when I do hit one on a long cast, that I'm able to drive the hook in and put the fish into the boat. And so really, really like this rod. Actually, I didn't break that rod. I left that rod in Mexico. There was a kid down there that ended up waiting on us while I was in Mexico, and I ended up leaving him that rod because he really, really wanted it. There was another rod. It was my swim bait rod. The next rod that we're about to talk about, that I broke that one in my rod locker. My jig rod I actually ended up giving to a kid in Mexico, which was really, really cool. And then I got that paired up with another, this is a Xenon MGX. Again, STX, MGX, SX, like those are what you see a bunch of in my arsenal, but this is the MGX 8 gear ratio. Really like this reel just because of the compact size, because I'm actually throwing these jigs on 12-pound test. lighter line, a little bit more moderate action rod, just kind of pare down everything just a little bit, and it allows me to fish these finesse jigs in a very finesse way and to get bites. And so I'll pair that up with that MGX just because, again, I said a little bit smaller spool, but a little bit smaller profile allows me to throw that little bit lighter line really efficiently, even when the wind's blowing and stuff like that. And then just that reel being lighter with that exposed blank, being able to wrap my hand completely around that thing, I'm able to feel even the slightest little bite. I love those MGXs. They are premium. They're expensive, I won't lie, but God, they're good rods. Damn good rods. All right, the next one, and we've only got one more to go, which is crazy, is going to be another cranking rod. Now, here's the deal. I got more cranking rods than this, actually. I just kind of phase them in and out as I need them. We're kind of phasing out of the winter portion of my fishing, and so I start taking a lot of the cranking rods that I got out of here and then start putting in some more summertime cranking rods and more cranking style stuff. So I've got a couple more of the Fenwick 7-1s that I was talking about that are just backups to that rod, and a couple more of those Vendettas that are backups. But then this one is one that I'm very interested with. This is an Iaconelli rod. Old Mike, again, badass paint job on these things. And Mike actually likes really, really moderate action glass style rods. It's because he's my man. I love those as well. I come from the old school. Used to fish all-star rods. It was David Fritz all-star cranking rod. The damn thing was like an ugly stick. You could bend it and touch the tip down to the butt of the rod. That's how bendy it was. But God, it was a good cranking rod. This is a 7.3 medium moderate fast action rod. Now, right now, I got a little lipless on it. I've been experimenting with a lipless on it, and I really, really like it. But I think this is going to be an awesome kind of moderate size crankbait rod. Something like a dredger, like a 15-foot diving dredger. I think it's going to be a really, really good rod for that. I think it'll do a really good job with some lipless crankbaits. But it's just an interesting rod that I've still got in the boat that I'm going to kind of experiment with. And I've actually got the match to this rod, which is a 7.6 medium heavy, which I'm going to use for like my deeper diving crankbaits when I go and do that kind of stuff. But really, really interesting rod that I like. It's cool. It's different. I'm still playing with it, but I like it. I don't know if I'll keep it, but I like it. And then I got that paired up with a Revo STX, again, 6/8 gear ratio and some 12-pound straight fluorocarbon on that one. Again, the STX makes its debut. It makes its, not debut, it makes its reappearance. That's the word that I'm looking for. We're really deep into this video. I'm starting to not be able to talk straight. All right, we got one more rod. This is the end-all be-all. This is the one you've all been waiting for. This is the one that you're going to say, Alex, oh my gosh, are you serious? No, you're not. That's my swim bait rod right there, boys. It's the rod that I throw my cold shad on. I absolutely love throwing a cold shad. It's one of my favorite baits ever made. If you don't like throwing a cold shad, there's something wrong with you. You need to be checked by a doctor because if you don't like this bite, there's just something wrong with you. This is 7.6 heavy, fast action Veritas 3.0. Got it paired up with another Iaconelli reel, solely for the reel handles on this thing because I bear paw when I hook one on the cold shad, and I got that paired up with some 20-pound straight, 17 to 20-pound straight fluorocarbon. I think I got 17-pound on here right now. Yeah, it's 17-pound fluorocarbon, and again, it's what I toss all of my harness swim baits on, like my cold shad. This is almost exclusively what this rod is set up for. Like I said, I got another one that I use for a flipping stick, but this one is paired up with a 6/8 gear ratio reel, just so that we can kind of keep that steady speed on that cold shad, but not overfish it, not blow it out or do anything like that. And just really, really love this setup. I've really been liking this reel. These reels are really cool. They're smooth, they're good reels, but the reel handles, I'm going to move to petition that we bring these reel handles into more series of Abu Garcia reels, just because look at those things. I mean, like, look at it next to my pinky. They're freaking huge. I love them. Allows me that when I catch one, to bear paw that thing like I bear paw my reel often and get those fish into the boat. But again, this was actually the rod. I used to throw this on a Fanatista X 7.6 heavy. Left that rod, or broke that rod in my rod locker and ended up replacing it with this Veritas 3.0. And honestly, I've not been disappointed. It's a great rod. It fishes well. It loads well. It's got that fast action that I look for, that even though I am fishing a treble hook bait, a lot of the times they just overtake this thing and I need to drive that hook in and get them hooked good. And so that's why I paired up with that, and then just paired up with that heavier line so that I've got all the strength that I need to lay the wood to them and not have to worry about it. But yeah, guys, There you go. It's a long video. Life update, rod and reel arsenal. Pulled every single one of these bad boys out. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I don't know how many of that is. I'm not going to count it. You remember that scene from Family Guy where it's like, you're not a millipede, you're a millipede or whatever. That. I'll pop that up on the screen. But now I've pulled them all out, so I got to put them all back up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. As always, you guys are sweet. We'll see you next time.